Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Bibbity Bobbity Books. My name is Ellie and today I'm really excited to be filming the mid-year book freakout tag. So this feels like a bit of a staple here on booktube. It's definitely one of my favourite book tag videos to watch other people do, so I'm really excited to give it a go for myself. If I can find the original video, I'll have that linked below so you can go and check it out. But yeah, fun fact, this was actually one of the first videos that I ever filmed and put up here on my channel. I can't believe it's been a whole year since I filmed that video. It feels like yesterday, but yeah, so I thought it'd be fun to give it another go this year, and it's a nice way to kind of check in mid-year. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to jump straight in with the first prompt because there's quite a few prompts to get through. So the first prompt is, what is the best book you've read so far in 2022? Now, I had a hard time choosing a book for this prompt because I feel like I've read so many fantastic books this year, but the one that I've settled on is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. So this is actually the first book that I picked up this year, and I set the bar really high. I honestly think I'm going to struggle to top it because I really love this book. It's definitely a new favourite of mine, and yeah, I just loved everything about this story. So this is the first book in a fantasy duology. It's an adult fantasy duology, and in this story we follow our main character Laszlo, and he is an orphan of war that's been brought up in this monastery, but he doesn't really suit the lifestyle of being a monk. He's very much a dreamer, hence the name Strange the Dreamer, and he has this one particular fascination, which is with this city that actually got cut off from the rest of society, and no one knows what happened to this mysterious city, and no one can even remember the name of this city. Everyone just refers to it as Weep. And so basically in this story we follow Laszlo as he uncovers what happened to this city, and it is just such a beautiful story. I don't want to say too much more than that because I don't want to give anything away, but you get two perspectives in this story. You get Laszlo, who's just the most adorable character, and you also get another perspective. Again, I'm not going to say who that is because I don't want to give any spoilers, but essentially it's a really beautifully written, whimsical fantasy story, and the world building is so fascinating in this story, and there's some really beautiful and vivid scenes in this book, and yeah, it's just such a wonderful time. So I could not rate this highly enough, and would definitely recommend for you to go and check this one out if you haven't already. Okay, the next prompt is, what is the best sequel you've read so far in 2022? Now, I haven't actually read that many sequels this year, so I didn't have a huge bunch to pick from, but the one that I'm going to choose for this prompt is The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. So this is the second book in his Mistborn trilogy, and let me tell you, this book ended on some really big reveals that have me really excited for the final book, and I really had a fun time with this one. It definitely picked up towards the end of this second book. I feel like the middle portion was a little bit slow in my opinion, but the ending made up for it, and I had such a blast reading this story. This is such a fun time. If you haven't heard of this series before, this is a adult fantasy series, and it follows well, the first book follows a band of skilled allomancers who come together to overthrow the Lord Ruler. So it's a rebellion plot line, and in this world the magic system revolves around metals, so allomancers have the ability to ingest and harness the unique powers of different metals, and it is so creative, and it is such a interesting world, and it's also quite accessible as well. So I feel like if you're new to adult fantasy, this could be a good place to start, and yeah, I had a great time reading this one. Okay, so the next prompt is, what is a new release you haven't read yet but want to? Now for this prompt I am going to choose Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher because I think this looks like such a fun story. So this is a standalone, I believe, and it's a fantasy story, and the synopsis just sounds so fun. So I'm just going to give you a read of the synopsis on Goodreads. So it says, after years of seeing her sisters suffer at the hands of an abusive prince, Mara, the shy convent-raised third-born daughter, has finally realised that no one is coming to their rescue. No one except for Mara herself. Seeking help from a powerful grave witch, Mara is offered the tools to kill a prince if she can complete 3 impossible tasks. But as is the way in tales of princes, witches and daughters, the impossible is only the beginning. On her quest, Mara is joined by the grave witch, a reluctant fairy godmother, a strapping former knight, and a chicken possessed by a demon. Together, the 5 of them intend to be the hand that closes around the throat of the prince and frees Mara's family and their kingdom from its tyrannous ruler at last. How fun does that sound? I have heard some really fantastic things about this book as well. I know some people who've read it and loved it, so I'm super excited to get to that one hopefully soon. The next prompt is, what is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year? So there are so many books that I'm really excited to come out in the second half of this year. It's really hard to pick just one, so I'm going to just mention a couple, the ones that I am most excited for. So the first one is The First Binding by R.R. Verdi. So that one comes out on the 16th of August and it just sounds fantastic. This one has been likened to The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, which is one of my favourite books, and so as soon as I heard that I was like, I need to get on this book because it sounds amazing. I'm just going to give you a little snippet of the synopsis. So it says, all legends are born of truths just as much as lies. These are mine, judge me for what you will, but you will hear my story first. I buried the village of Ampur under a mountain of ice and snow, then I killed their god. I've stolen old magics and been cursed for it. I started a war with those that walked before mankind and lost the princess I loved and wanted to save. I've cooled the lightning and bound fire. I am legend and I am a monster. My name is Ari and this is the story of how I let loose the first evil. I'm sorry, but how epic does that sound? It sounds fantastic, and again I've heard some really wonderful reviews for this book from those who have been lucky enough to receive an ARC, so I'm really excited for that one. I've got very high hopes and yeah, predict that I'm going to really enjoy that one. The next book that I'm really excited for is The Book of Gretel by Mary McMine. So this one comes out towards the end of July. I think it's the 26th of July that this one comes out. And honestly, as soon as I saw the cover for this one, I immediately put it on my TBR because if you know me at all, you'll know that I love fairy tale retellings. And the cover for this book is gorgeous and it's very clearly a Rapunzel retelling. And I don't think I've ever actually read a Rapunzel retelling, so I'm very interested in this story. So it says on the synopsis, everyone knows the tale of Rapunzel in her tower, but do you know the story of the witch who put her there? Honestly, I don't need to know any more. I'm super excited for this one. I think it's going to be really atmospheric and yeah, I just love a fairy tale retelling. What can I say? Okay, I've just got one more book that I have to mention for this prompt, and that is The Daughter of Dr Moreau by Silvia Moreno Garcia. So I read Mexican Gothic by this author towards the end of last year and I really loved it. I loved her writing style. I thought it was the perfect balance of descriptive but not too overly flowery, and I just loved how gothic and how imaginative that story was. So as soon as I saw that this author was bringing out a new book, I obviously put it straight on my wish list. And yeah, I don't want to know a huge amount about this one before I go into it because I really enjoyed being surprised by Mexican Gothic. So I'm not going to read a full synopsis, but it says on the back that this is a dreamy reimagining of the island of Dr Moreau set against the backdrop of 19th century Mexico. I don't need to hear any more than that. I think this one is going to be fantastic. Okay, the next prompt is, what is your biggest disappointment? Now, I don't want to spend too long on this prompt, but the one that I'm going to choose is House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J Maas. This is the second book in her Crescent City series. I'm sure you've probably all heard of this urban fantasy series before because it was incredibly popular on BookTube, so I'm not going to give you a full synopsis, but sadly this second book didn't live up to my expectations. I found it quite slow paced, quite a chore to get through if I'm being honest, and I didn't really love the direction that the author took at the end of this book. So yeah, unfortunately this one wasn't for me. Moving on to the next prompt, which is, what is your biggest surprise? Now I'm going to take this as a positive thing, and the book that I'm going to choose for that is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. So So before I went into this one, I had heard some pretty mixed reviews. Quite a lot of people that I know really didn't get on with this book. So I was a little bit dubious going into this story, and I was really pleasantly surprised. I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was so unique and really fascinating, and I loved being in the head of our main character. So this is a very strange book, and it follows our main character Piranesi, who lives in this infinitely huge magical house, and he basically spends his life mapping out the house, going room to room and documenting everything that he finds. And it's just him that seems to live in this house and one other person known as the Other. And yeah, this book is presented as Piranesi's journals, so it's his thoughts as he is going room to room, and he starts to uncover some things. I don't want to give anything away, but he basically starts to realize that maybe things aren't quite as he thought they were. Yeah, I'm being deliberately vague with this one. I think this is the kind of book that's best to go into without any expectations and just go along with it for the ride. And I thought this was such a magical setting. It was really interesting. So this house, as I said, is infinitely huge, but the lower levels of the house are like submerged in the ocean, and the upper levels are up in the clouds. And it's just fascinating being inside our main character's head. He's very kind of innocent in a way, and yeah, I just really enjoyed it, and I've not read anything like this one before. So yeah, I'd recommend this one if you're looking for something that's not too long, and if you're looking for something perhaps a little bit different from what you might normally read, give it a go. Okay, so moving on to the next prompt. What is your favourite new author? So that can be a debut author or someone that's new to you. So for this, I'm going to choose a debut author, and that is Lin Tan, who wrote this gorgeous book, which is Daughter of the Moon Goddess. You've probably heard me talking about this book before because I really enjoyed this book. This is the first book in a new fantasy series. It's an adult fantasy series, and I loved the writing in here. It was really gorgeously written. The world was really creative and beautiful. There were lots of really luscious descriptions in here. I really enjoyed our main character, who is the daughter of the moon goddess, and it was just a really fun time. And considering this is this author's debut novel, I'm incredibly impressed, and will definitely be checking out any more books that she publishes in the future. So in this story, we follow our main character Yin, who lives on the moon with her mother. Her mother has actually been exiled to the moon for stealing the Emperor's elixir of immortality, and when she was sent to the moon, she was actually pregnant, but no one knew. So she had her daughter in secret and kept her hidden on the moon. But one day Yin is forced to flee her home because she accidentally flares her magic, and that causes her existence to become known, and so she ends up on the run. So she goes to the Celestial Empire, which is the kind of empire up in the clouds, which is very cool, and she has to keep her identity hidden, and she has to try and establish herself in this new society, and she's very much motivated by her end goal of hopefully one day going back to her mother and freeing her from her imprisonment on the moon. So it has a lovely mother-daughter sort of dynamic in here, and yeah, this is so fun. I would highly recommend this to you if you like whimsical fantasy stories, and also if you're looking for something to transition from young adults to adults, because I think some of the themes in here are quite similar to themes that you might see in younger sort of young adult books, because there's very much a focus on a coming of age story, and there's also quite a big romance plotline in here as well. But yeah, I'm so impressed with the writing in this story and can't wait to read more from this author. So the next prompt is, what is your newest fictional crush? Now, I don't really have a new fictional crush, to be honest with you. I haven't read that many books that have a whole ton of romance in. Nothing is really sticking out to me, but I guess if I had to choose, I would probably go with Hades from Neon Gods by Katie Robert. So this is an incredibly spicy book. It's very loosely based on the Hades and Persephone myth, and yeah, it's a modern retelling, and it's basically pure erotica. I mean, what can I say? I had fun with this book. If you're in the mood for something smutty, then maybe give this one a go. And I mean, I quite enjoyed Hades as a character in this story, so yeah, I guess that's going to be my answer for this prompt. Okay, moving swiftly on. The next prompt is, what is a book that made you cry? Again, I don't really feel like I've read any books that have made me cry, which is quite surprising considering I am actually a weeper. I normally cry at everything, but I just haven't read that many sad books, to be honest with you. But the one that I'm going to choose for this prompt is My Jasper Jean by Laurel Cinder. So this is actually a middle grade story, and in this book we follow our main character Leah, who has suffered a massive tragedy in her family, and she's very much having to deal with her grief. And this whole book is set during the month of June, so it's during the summer holidays, and Leah spends a lot of time on her own during the holidays because all of her friends have jetted off on vacation, and she doesn't really feel like she can connect with her friends anymore after what's happened to her family. And her parents have to work during the day, so she spends a lot of time on her own, and she's incredibly lonely. And then one day she goes for a walk to get some fresh air, and she ends up bumping into this girl called Jasper, and they spark up a friendship. And yeah, it's a sweet story about the importance of friendship and the resilience of children, because both our main character Leah and also the girl Jasper are going through some really difficult things in their life. And yeah, it's just following their friendship really. It's really lovely. This is perfect for the summer as well, because obviously it's set during the summer holidays and the two girls spend quite a lot of time outside. And it was a very sweet story, and there were definitely some very touching moments in here, and it does deal with some hard-hitting topics such as grief. And so yeah, it was emotional at times. But yeah, I would recommend this one if you're looking for something that's quite quick, and if you're a fan of middle grade but you're looking for something that's a little bit more heavy or has a little bit more weight to it than a normal middle grade, then maybe give this one a go. Okay, so the next prompt is, what is a book that made you happy? Now this prompt, I had to pick Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. So this is the most heartwarming, wholesome fantasy book that you never knew that you needed. I had such a lovely time with this book. This is a self-published book. You might recognise the name Travis Baldree actually, because he is quite a famous audio narrator. He narrates a lot of audiobooks. And yeah, he's released his debut novel. It's self-published, but I do believe that it's been picked up by a publishing firm. I can't remember which one. And it's going to be traditionally published as well, which is very exciting. So this follows our main character, who is an orc called Viv, and she is tired of living her warrior life, and she just wants to pack away her sword, and she wants to open up this coffee shop because she tried coffee for the first time and loved it, and she wants to recreate her experience. So yeah, she sets about opening this coffee shop in a town that's never heard of coffee before, which is quite funny. And it's so wholesome. I mean, that's literally all it is. It's about her making this coffee shop, and there's very much a found family feel here. There's also a little bit of a romance, which is really sweet, and it's just so wholesome. And I would highly recommend snuggling up with this book with a hot cup of coffee and maybe some kind of snack, because there's quite a lot of baking and things in here, and I was definitely craving all of the sweet foods whilst I was reading this book. But yeah, it's just so lovely, and would highly recommend this one if you're looking for a bit of a serotonin boost. Okay, so the next prompt says, what is the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year? Now there are quite a few books that I could have chosen for this prompt. I had a hard time picking, but I've decided to go for one that I haven't actually spoken about before on this channel, and that is Electra by Jennifer Saint. I think this is such a stunning hardcover edition of this book. So this is a Greek mythology retelling. It's obviously telling the story of Electra, which is a character that I don't actually know a huge amount about, so I'm very excited to find out a little bit more about this character. But it says on the back that it is a vivid reimagining of Greek mythology's most haunted lineage. It says Electra is sensational, a truly immersive read, a compelling retelling of ancient legacies, betrayal, and the whims of the gods. So yeah, I'm expecting this one to be really beautifully written and atmospheric, and I mean the cover is just gorgeous. I love this green colour against the gold and the black. This green is actually one of my favourite colours, and the back is also really stunning, and this one also has some lovely end pages as well, which is just so beautiful, and some foiling on the spine. So yeah, I really love this this book and this cover. So yeah, that's my answer for this prompt. And then the next one is just, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? So there are so many books that I would like to read by the end of the year. I would love to finish the Daevabad trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty. I'm currently in the middle of the second book, Kingdom of Copper. And yeah, I would love to finish out that series by the end of the year because it's such a fun one. Perfect for the summer as well because it's set in, well, it starts off in 18th century Cairo and we're following our main character Nahari, who is a con artist living on the streets, and she one day accidentally summons this jinn warrior, and the two of them end up on the run and they go running to the city of Brass, which is this city where the jinn kind of reside. And yeah, there's a lot of politics in this series as well. We get two perspectives. We get Nahari and we also get Prince Ali, who is the second in line to the throne in the city of Brass, and it is a whole lot of fun. I would highly recommend this one if you haven't checked it out already. So yeah, I would love to finish that series. I'd also really like to read quite a lot of watery, oceany fantasy books this summer, particularly when I go away on holiday. I'm thinking of doing a separate video actually of all of the watery fantasy books that I've got on my TBR, because I think that might be quite a fun video. So let me know if you would like to see that. But one that I definitely want to read is On Strange Tides. I mean, who doesn't love a pirate story? I think that one looks so fun, and I'm really excited to give that one a go. So yeah, that brings me to the end of this video. I really hope that you enjoyed this mid-year freak out tag. If you want to give it a go, please go ahead. I know I'm a little bit late to the party with this one, but yeah, I hope that you've enjoyed all my answers. If you've read any of the books that I've mentioned today, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments, or if you're thinking of picking up any of these books after you've heard me talking about them, please let me know. I hope you're all having a wonderful day, whatever it is that you are doing, and I guess I'll see you next time with another video. Bye!